Hello, I'm Dr. Pavitra from Vriddhi Center for Mental Health. We often ask our patients to use a thought record because it is one of the most powerful tools we have for understanding the link between what we think and how we feel. Now, it is important to remember one core principle. Just because you think something, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is true. Thoughts can be 100% true, 0% true, or somewhere in the middle. The goal of this worksheet and the thought record exercise isn't to think positively, but it is to think realistically. We recommend spending just 5 to 10 minutes whenever you notice your mood getting worse or notice yourself engaging in unhelpful behavior. Your therapist may have given you a thought record worksheet and they would have explained to you how to use it. It can be very daunting and confusing, but do not worry, as you can always come back to this video whenever you feel confused. Now, step number 1 is the situation or the trigger. The first column asks for the situation. This might be an external event, for example, something that just happened to you or something that you just did. However, it can also be an internal event, such as a sudden intense emotion like pain or anger, a painful physical sensation, or a daydream or a flashback. Let's take an example of someone who has been living with discomfort in socially demanding situations. Imagine you're at a friend's party and you are sitting in a corner and you're wanting to have a conversation with a group. However, you find yourself frozen and unable to make a move. In this column, you may write standing at the party wanting to talk to a group of people. Step number 2 would be identifying automatic thoughts or automatic negative thoughts. When you notice a shift in your mood, you ask yourself, what is going through my mind right now? What am I thinking? These are your automatic negative thoughts, which are the words or mental images that flash through your mind before, during, or after this particular event. For example, you might think that if I join them, they'll just think I am awkward and I'll have nothing to say. You might believe this to be about 90%, 100% true. Once you've jotted down the thought, you may rate this as well as in how much you believe in it at that moment from a 0 to 100%. Step number 3 is labeling your emotions. Now, in the next column, you can write, are you sad? Are you anxious? Angry? Be specific. And you can also rate the intensity of this emotion. For example, you may write down anxious or self-conscious and perhaps rate it at about 90%. Now, this rating is optional, and if you're not able to actually come down to a number, that's fine. You can leave it for now. Step number 4 is recognizing cognitive distortions. This is where we look for patterns. Cognitive distortions are biased ways of thinking that are not based on all the facts. A lot of cognitive distortions are there and not all will apply to all situations. In our example, there can be the distortion of mind reading, assuming that you know they will think you're awkward without having any proof to establish the same. Or there could be overgeneralization, thinking that because you've felt uncomfortable in the past or in 1 or 2 get-togethers, you simply do not have what it takes to make friends. Or it could be catastrophizing, telling yourself that if I'm awkward in this conversation, I will be so upset that I won't be able to ever have a conversation with anyone at all. And I will never be confident ever. Now, in changing how we feel or think about life events or situations, or identifying cognitive distortions, these could be really challenging and tricky. If you're unable to name what's not working, what's wrong, what kind of distortion it is, do not feel overwhelmed. This part can again be discussed with your therapist in the next session. Step number 5 is the adaptive response, the core of the work. Now we can use specific questions to challenge these automatic negative thoughts and compose an adaptive response, a response which works for you. You don't need to answer every question, just the ones that are related to your situation and relevant there. Let's look at these 6 guiding questions. First would be evidence. What is the evidence that this is true? What I'm thinking is true, and what is the evidence that it is not true? So the evidence that I am awkward is just a feeling, which is emotional reasoning. But the evidence against it is that I have made many successful conversations in the past. So that's evidence against what I'm thinking. What is an alternative explanation for what is happening? That could be the second question. Or third, the impact. What is the worst that could happen and how would I cope with it? And alternatively, what is the best that could happen and how can I make the most, and what is the most realistic outcome? The most realistic outcome can be that I may feel nervous at first, but people generally tend to be kind. Next could be the effect. What happens if I keep believing this thought? What happens if I change my thinking? So if I keep believing in this, that I'm awkward, I'll just leave home early and then feel lonely and regret it. And lastly, compassion. If a friend of mine were in this situation, what would I tell them? Try to tell that to yourself. And last is action. What would be the good thing to do right now? Just one thing. The simplest thing would be to say hello. Again, if you're not able to think about all of that yourself, it's okay. You can come back to it, or you can take help from your therapist. Now the last part, the outcome. Now finally, during your therapy sessions, you will check back. How much do you now believe the original automatic thoughts? How scary was it actually to talk to the group of people? As you practice this at home, just remember that your spelling, your grammar, the color of your notebook, the state of your thought diary does not count. This is for you, it's not a graded assignment. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes for you to catch these automatic negative thoughts in real time. In essence, we want you to be able to spot those unhelpful beliefs as they come, so that they lose the power to make you feel bad and actually help you feel realistic about what's happening. I encourage you to bring your thought record if you've been recommended the same for your next therapy session at Vriddhi Center for Mental Health. Thank you so much for watching this video.